Tomorrow is the day, y'all. Tomorrow is the day. NFL draft. Another step in the journey of the Philadelphia Eagles becoming Super Bowl champions back to back. Come on. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that jazz. Share with a friend and share with a friend. Let's get into this episode right freaking now. Now, if y'all been watching Real Talk, you know how I feel about these two players, Malachi Starks and Walter Nolan. They nice. They nice. Malachi Starks with CJ Gardner-Johnson being traded away. That seems like an ideal fit in terms of getting a day one starter when there is uncertainty on who's going to be the guy paired up with Reed Blankenship. Then you got Walter Nolan. When Milton Williams, he left to go to the Patriots for a bag. And now we got to find out, all right, who's going to be paired up with Jalen Carter, especially in pass rushing situations. You know, Jordan Davis defends the run. You know, Mora Jomo, 7th round pick. You like him, but maybe you want another piece. So again, I like Walter Nolan a lot. I like Malachi Starks a lot. And y'all have heard me talk about them many times. Gonna talk about somebody else. If the Eagles draft James Pearce Jr., it could end up working out like when they drafted Jalen Carter. James Pearce Jr. and Jalen Carter are very similar in how they were evaluated heading into the draft. Jalen Carter was a number 1 overall pick if he ain't have his character concerns. That's what his talent was. He was legit. And he should have never, ever slid to number 9. Now, the Eagles, they capitalized. They had vets that created a great culture. They had great coaching staff that created that culture. And we're seeing Jalen Carter become a Super Bowl champion. James Pearce Jr. could have a similar effect that Jalen Carter had on the Eagles. James Pearce Jr. is a number 1 overall type talent. That's what he is. Because if the NFL draft was last year, James Pearce Jr. would have been the first non-QB selected in the draft. That's a certified fact. Coming off 9.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, a pick 6. Oh my gosh, he was legit. Now, this season, he took a little bit of a step back. He still had 7.5 sacks. But I think the issue with James Pearce Jr. is the fact that they said he has on-field character concerns. Not character concerns like Mike Green, who has issues in terms of allegations around sexual assault. Not that type of allegations, but they're just talking about his motor, his attitude on the field. And I'll read what they said. Reportedly, James Pearce Jr. has the worst character report out of any player in this year's class, per Corey Kinnan. Pearce, who lit up the combine with a 4.47 40-yard time, has raised some flags due to his perceived character concerns. Here's a quote from an anonymous scout. I was told that the Tennessee football program could not only breathe easier once Pearce left campus, but that his pitch count in SEC play was not injury related. Pearce was seen as an undeniably uncoachable and a player with 1 foot out the door already this season, giving coaches little incentive to put him on the field. Want to know what that tells me? What that tells me is that James Pearce Jr., at 21 years old, he might have been 20 at the time as well, was thinking to himself, I'm going to be a first-round pick. So I'm going to do what I want to do. And he might have got a little bit cocky, might have got a little bit arrogant, and the Tennessee coaching staff wasn't jacking it. But it's kind of like he peaked a little bit too early in college and he stopped caring as much. That's what that's telling me. Well, let me tell you this. With the Philadelphia Eagles, James Pearce Jr. with Vic Fangio, let's just say Vic Fangio would maximize his talent. And James Pearce Jr. has athletic gifts. 6'5", 243 pounds, blistering 40-yard time, long, lean, explosive. Literally the second best edge rusher in this draft. He is. Imagine the wonders that Vic Fangio would work with, bro. Imagine the wonders that Clint Hurt would work with, bro. Imagine the wonders that comes with James Pearce Jr. having teammates like Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt and these like super freak athletes just like him that have won a Super Bowl. So it's bigger than just him getting drafted to Philly. You're getting drafted to a team that has vets that been there and done that offensively with Lane, Mailata. Now, I guess at this point, Hurts, AJ, and Saquon are vets. Defensively, we're younger. But you got these guys in Coop and Quinion, in Nakobe, in Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith, Jalix Hunt. These guys are young, but they know what it takes and the feeling of getting that Super Bowl. So all of these guys mixed together with a guy in Nick Sirianni, who is a hell of a coach in terms of creating the culture. You might not see it. I might not see it. It might be a little bit wacky, but you can't deny that the players respond to him. I mean, bro shaved his head. It was unorthodox, but he shaved his head, and the team essentially didn't lose a game at full strength. He's doing something right. He's a great coach. And so all of those things put together, James Pearce Jr. to the Eagles would be lethal, flat out lethal. And you have to think about this too. You have to think about this. You're in a division where you're going to be facing Jaden Daniels twice a year. Twice a year. And I got a lot of respect for Jaden Daniels. And I believe that you got to go out there and kind of like how the Timberwolves, they got big men to defend Jokic. Like they're actively getting people to go ahead and defend like the guy that they got to beat. Now, the Eagles are a little bit different because they did beat Jaden Daniels twice. And the one time that they lost, Hurts was out. But it's similar in that you want to strategically get guys that would suit well against your biggest rivals. And so if you have Nolan Smith and James Pearce Jr. both on the edge, oh my word. Remember that Commanders defensive coordinator that was saying to Hurts, he better not get out the pocket? Jaden Daniels better not get out the pocket with James Pearce Jr. and Nolan Smith running after him. What are we talking about? So you have to also fight fire with fire, match it, and get a guy who has serious upside. That's what it is. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. That's somebody that you just got to go get, bro. Let me know down below what you think. What you think? I do want to talk about a couple more things. And this kind of bleeds into like this whole thing about James Pearce Jr., it bleeds into like my second point, which is that there isn't much urgency to trade up in the first round. I don't believe so. Unless Walter Nolan is available in the 20s and the Eagles really, really love him, then I could see them trading up for him. But outside of Walter Nolan, I don't see the Eagles trading up in the first round. Also, I don't see them trading up for Malachi Starks. I love Malachi Starks. But if the Eagles believe in Sidney Brown, it wouldn't make sense to trade up and lose assets for Malachi Starks. Because if you believe in Sidney Brown that much, then you would go out there and draft a guy in Kevin Winston Jr. day 2. That doesn't cost you as much draft capital. And Howie has never drafted a safety in his top 50 picks as a GM. Now, that could change because he paid Saquon Barkley, and that's a guy that historically Howie did not pay running backs. I mean, the whole league, I guess, historically hasn't paid running backs like that. Howie historically hasn't paid linebackers, and he did that with Zach Bond. So things could change. But drafting Malachi Starks for the Eagles is essentially based on how they feel about Sidney Brown. And Sidney Brown in his rookie year was promising. You saw that 99-yard pick 6. He just got to tone it down, not go 150 miles per hour every single play. But that's something that you want to tone down effort. You want to tone down energy. That's something you actually want to do. You don't want to have a guy that isn't amped up, doesn't have energy, because Sidney Brown is never, ever, ever going to not have energy. He's kind of like Russell Westbrook. Not comparing the players, comparing their mindset. So stop that. But you know, Westbrook is going to go 150 miles an hour every single play. And sometimes it might take going 70, waiting your turn, being patient, and letting the play develop. That's what Sidney Brown's got to do. But we'll see. We'll see how confident the Eagles are in Sidney Brown in terms of whether or not they are aggressive in acquiring Malachi Starks. But back to Walter Nolan, I don't see them really trading up unless it's for him. And if it's for Walter Nolan, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Because I do believe you got Walter Nolan to replace Milton Williams, and the double teams that Jalen Carter is going to bring, that's just going to leave Walter Nolan on the island. And we know how explosive he is as a pass rusher. Come on. Come on. That would be a great jump. So I think that this class has a whole lot of really good pieces in defensive line. And I would be shocked if Howie Roseman doesn't draft a defensive lineman or edge rusher in the first round. I want to talk about the second round real quick. Let's talk about second round real quick. I'm looking at Howie Roseman and his second round picks since 2018. Do you know that Howie Roseman, since 2018, has only missed on one second round pick? 2018, Dallas Goedert. 2019, the only miss was J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. 2019, he got Miles Sanders. 2020, Jalen Hurts. 2021, Landon Dickerson. 2022, Cam Jurgens. And 2024, Cooper DeJean. Think about that. Think about that. These are all first-round talents. And that first-round production outside of J.J. Whiteside. Outside of him. But to get Coop, Cam Jurgens, who Jason Kelsey flat out picked out and said, that's my successor, and we paid him, congrats to Cam Jurgens, Landon Dickerson, Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, Dallas Goedert. This is all in the first round. Not in the first, not this is all in the second round. This is all in the second round, not in the first round, bro. That's insane. So when we talk about the second round and we talk about who the Eagles should target in the second round, the Eagles should target Mason Taylor or Elijah Arroyo. That's what they should target. Now, I would lean towards Mason Taylor because not only is this a guy who he developed as a 3-star recruit to be one of the nation's best tight ends, but also he was productive with Garrett Nussmeier. For sure. Now, Elijah Arroyo, his best year was with Cam Ward, who's going to be the number 1 overall pick. Mason Taylor, whether it was Jaden Daniels, whether it was Garrett Nussmeier, whoever it was, he was still productive. He was still productive. So I look at a guy in Mason Taylor that he was in the 96th percentile in terms of separation for tight ends. He's going to separate. He's going to separate. And I would argue he would have better numbers if he had a better quarterback. Also, playing in the SEC since his freshman year, Mason Taylor has been making plays. You got to understand, like, day one, he's going to be a threat in the passing attack. Now, as a blocker, he needs to improve a lot. Yeah. But if we take a step back and say, yo, day one, can this guy be a threat offensively? And has he been in situations where he's had to play with a Malik Neighbors or a Brian Thomas Jr. and bid that third option and excelled? Yeah. And here's the last point on Mason Taylor. Not only was Mason Taylor in the 96th percentile in terms of creating separation for tight ends, he had 1 drop in 2024. 1 drop. Oh my gosh. And so I believe that Mason Taylor will follow the footsteps of Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz, of second-round tight ends by the Philadelphia Eagles that flourished. And I love Dallas Goedert. Best case scenario, maybe the Eagles restructure his contract and he isn't making as much as $12 million. And the Eagles can still draft his replacement. And then Mason Taylor learns from Goddard. That would be amazing. That would. And I do think there's something to being the son of a Hall of Famer, because he had to earn his stripes the right way. And he always had pressure on him. He always had pressure on him, and Mason Taylor always delivered. Remember that iconic 2-point conversion against Alabama in 2022? And bro was a freshman? I'm just saying, he got the tools. He got the freaking tools. And so last one, I mentioned him briefly, was Kevin Winston Jr. Kevin Winston Jr. has the athletic gifts. He does. And I do believe that there is value in drafting him in the 3rd round because it's high upside. And while his floor right now is low and he's not going to be a day one starter, I don't believe that. You can still have some competition in terms of competing for the spot next to Reed Blankenship. So it's going to be Sidney Brown in the mix. It's going to be Kevin Winston Jr. in the mix. It's going to be Lewis Kine in the mix, the guy from Georgia that we got right before the postseason. Winston Jr. was a captain at Penn State. They said that he's wired the right way. He attacks blocks the right way. He's good against the run. It's just in coverage, he kind of loses himself. And I attribute this to the fact that he hasn't had that much time playing college ball because he missed most of 2024 with an injury. And so, because of his limited time, that's why he would drop to like a day 2 pick. But I would say when you got a position of need, low key, with CJ Garner Johnson going out, I would say, hey, look at the guy from Penn State. So I love y'all. Appreciate y'all. We're talking about Johnson. Y'all know I always keep it real. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. It's draft freaking day. I'm going to create a mock draft for the Eagles tomorrow, 1 through 7. It's going to be great. And we're going to go live during the draft. See y'all. Peace.